Biography of Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway was born on July 21, 1899, in Oak Park, Illinois, USA. He was the second child of Clarence and Grace Hemingway. His father was a doctor, and his mother was a musician. Hemingway's childhood was privileged, as his family was relatively wealthy and he attended a prestigious high school. After graduating from high school, Hemingway began working for the Kansas City Star newspaper. In 1918, he volunteered to drive an ambulance for the Red Cross in Italy during World War I. While serving in Italy, Hemingway was injured by a mortar shell and awarded the Italian Silver Medal of Bravery. After the war, Hemingway moved to Paris, where he worked as a foreign correspondent for the Toronto Star. He became part of the expatriate community of American writers, artists, and intellectuals, including Gertrude Stein, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and James Joyce. During this time, Hemingway began writing fiction and published his first collection of short stories, In Our Time, in 1925. In 1926, Hemingway published his first novel, The Sun Also Rises, which established him as a major literary figure. The novel was based on his experiences in Europe after World War I and explored themes of disillusionment, masculinity, and the lost generation. Hemingway continued to write prolifically throughout the 1920 seconds and 1930 seconds, producing works such as A Farewell to Arms 1929, For Whom the Bell Tolls 1940, and The Old Man and the Sea 1952. He also wrote numerous short stories and essays, many of which were published in magazines such as Esquire and The Atlantic. Hemingway's writing style was characterized by a spare, direct prose style that emphasized action and emotion. His work was often influenced by his own experiences, including his time as a war correspondent during the Spanish Civil War and his travels to Africa and Cuba. In his personal life, Hemingway was known for his adventurous spirit and love of travel, often visiting exotic locations such as Africa, Spain, and Cuba. However, he also struggled with depression and alcoholism, which eventually contributed to his declining health. He had 4 marriages throughout his life, including to his third wife, journalist Martha Gellhorn, and his fourth wife, Mary Welsh. In 1954, Hemingway was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for his realistic and imaginative writing, combining as it does sympathetic humor and keen social perception. He continued to write and travel throughout the 1950 seconds, but his health continued to decline. In 1961, at the age of 61, Hemingway died by suicide at his home in Ketchum, Idaho. Despite his troubled personal life, Hemingway remains one of the most important and influential American writers of the 20th century. His works continue to be studied and celebrated for their impact on modern literature.